Our next speaker is Martha. She's coming in, and this is a very important session because it speaks directly to category-specific information. So we want to stay on for that. The third session will delve into the specialized components of the master's application process for counseling psychology specifically. This includes the category interview, which assesses your knowledge specific to the counseling psychology domain, ensuring that applicants have a clear understanding of the field and its unique requirements. In this session, Martha will also help us to explore the research interview, which is quite critical, as well as the group interview, where we will learn how to effectively demonstrate our research aptitude, collaboration skills, and the ability to engage in meaningful discussions with peer and faculty. Finally, she's going to help us to examine the case study as well as its approaches, highlighting how to approach and analyze case studies thoughtfully, apply relevant theories, and demonstrate critical thinking, key skills that will be integral to the field of counseling psychology. This session aims to equip us with targeted strategies to navigate these critical aspects of the application process successfully. I'm going to read her biography while she gets ready to share a PowerPoint presentation. Martha brings a wealth of academic and professional experience, holding a high certificate in archives and records management, a BA in psychological counseling, and an honors degree in psychology from UNISA. Currently pursuing a Master of Social Science in Counseling Psychology, Martha serves as an intern counseling psychologist at the University of Forte. Her dedication to academic excellence and the hands-on experience uniquely positions Martha to provide us this morning with valuable insights into the application process and beyond. Thank you so much for joining us, Martha, and my sincere apologies for keeping you on until this time. The floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I think it's still morning. No worries, Nonhle. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak in this webinar. I don't worry about the time because I also learned a lot in terms of the application process. You know, I've been through this application process before, but I feel like there are things that I've learned from the two colleagues, Katlego and Selina, thank you very much, which I will also be applying, you know, as I continue mentoring other students in the field. So yeah, as Nonhle has already mentioned, I am an intern counseling psychologist. I completed my internship last year, and I'm currently running a mentorship program to assist students with the application process selections. Unfortunately, it has closed for now, but we would be running such webinars, like similar webinars to this one, throughout the application process and selection week as they approach. This kind of work, it speaks to me a lot because my interest and passion, it lies around student development, student well-being, student success. So being part of this webinar, I think it has really, you know, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to come and share my interests, my knowledge, what my experiences have been in the field with fellow aspiring psychologists. And I really hope that what has been shared already, I hope you taken notes and you will still continue to take notes as we go into the category specific knowledge research, and yeah, so that you would be able to know how to approach the master's applications and selection interviews this year. All right, so I will move on to, yes, like I've mentioned, so I will be focusing on the category specific knowledge, which is counseling psychology. Thank you, Katlego, for emphasizing that we as counseling psychology students, counseling psychologists, interns, we should be the ones who are advocating for counseling psychology because it is somehow less advocated for. a lot of students who are in the psychology, like if you could go to undergrad right now and ask students what is it that what categories do they know or specializations, it's mostly clinical, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think people have limited knowledge in terms of the diverse categories that are available in South Africa for the psychology program, and which one can actually go and specialize in. Hence, you find that there are people that constantly apply for clinical, and then they somehow realize that, okay, maybe I should try to apply for something else, and they get in, you know. So today we'll be talking about that, going into much depth of what counseling psychology is. I'll be touching on my experiences of being in the counseling psychology space. What is it that I have learned? What the work that I've been doing as well. And I'll be touching on the research interview, which can be quite anxiety provoking. One might not be sure what to actually cover when going into the research interview or writing the research activity. And then I'll be also talking about the group interview, which is most common in most selection processes, and case study and approaches. So when you go into the counseling psychology selection interviews, let's say they call you for selections, and then they indicate that, okay, you'll be going through several interviews, and one of the interview is a category specific interview. And then you ask yourself, okay, maybe they just want to know why I want to be a psychologist, right? So the purpose of this interview is for them to assess your knowledge and understanding of the category that you have chosen. You have sat down and said, okay, I'm applying for counseling, right? And they call you for selections. So they want to know why you've applied for that category. They want to assess if you're the best candidate for that category. Hence, there is this rigorous process of applications, autobiographies, motivational letters, interviews. They want to see if you would be the best tool to work with clients in therapy, right? They want to see if you can be trained as a psychologist. Hence, not everyone that is doing undergrad progresses to honors and just progresses to masters. So they want to assess if you would be able to hold space for individuals who seek help. All right. So these are the questions that may arise in the category specific interview. So they may ask, why specifically counseling psychology? What is counseling psychology? They may want to understand what you understand by counseling psychology, the work setting, where have you actually done your homework in terms of where you see yourself in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Do you see yourself doing this kind of work long term? Because this is a huge life decision that you would be making, that, okay, this is the career that I want. In as much as you can always change, but at that point in time, you would be adamant thinking that, okay, I think this is the work that best resonates with me. They spoke about your personality, you assessing if this is the right category for you, right? And they may ask you, what is the difference between clinical psychology and counseling psychology, because they do overlap, right? And for someone that has trained with clinical psychologists in the same class, I'll be sharing more about that. It was a beautiful experience, honestly, and you can just tell that there isn't much difference, but there is actually a difference, and there is a need for these two categories to be separated, right? They may ask about the role of counseling psychologists. What do you think the role of psychology in general is in South Africa? Why do we need psychology in South Africa? Why do we need psychologists in South Africa, right? Then they may ask you what you think about, or what you think are the mental health struggles of South Africans. more especially Black South Africans or underprivileged South Africans, right? So I'm going to go straight into what counseling psychology is. So according to the HPCSA, counseling psychologists, they assess, they diagnose, they intervene. Sorry about that. They work with people from all walks of life. They help with life, day-to-day life challenges, developmental problems, to optimize psychological well-being and to ensure that people, they have their mental health intact, they are able to be productive in their day-to-day life and to perform to the best of their abilities in all aspects of life, right? So if you get this question that what is counseling psychology, which might be your first question, or they might rephrase, right? It might not come as it is because the selection processes are different and they have their ways of asking questions, and sometimes they just want to trick you to check if, okay, you understand the question, right? So it's important to reflect. They spoke about reflecting a lot. Katlego and Selina, they spoke about reflecting. I think by now you understand what reflecting is. You understand how to reflect as an individual, right? So, all they want to see applications, selections, you as a psychologist is reflection. They want someone that is able to reflect, right? So even if they ask you what a counseling psychologist is, it's important for you to reflect on this definition. Don't say, according to the HPCSA, no. Don't give them a definition. Reflect on this definition. What is it that you understand by what a counseling psychologist is? What is it that you understand by the work that a counseling psychologist does? And how do you then, as an individual, fit into that role of a counseling psychologist? What skills do you possess? What are your interests in psychology that says, okay, this person understands what a clinical psychologist is, and they can actually make a great counseling psychologist. They can actually be trained to be a counseling psychologist, right? Talk about your contributions to the field of counseling psychology, right? What is it that you can offer in the field of counseling psychology? So you're going to look into your focus on, you're going to look into your interest in advocacy work if that is something you're interested in. So it's important to be authentic. It's important to understand yourself. What is it that you can do, what you can't do. So counseling psychology, it focuses more on advocacy work, right? Would you be able to bring that into the field of counseling psychology? Would you be able to, go out there and advocate for mental health? Would you be able to go into communities, talk about mental health, offer your services in communities? Would you be able to do that? So they want you to reflect on that, okay, I want to be this is what I think counseling psychology is, because this is the work they focus on, so you're going to reflect on the question in that regard. Then they may ask, why did you choose counseling psychology? The questions may sound similar, what and why, but now this is where you're going to, you're going to advocate for yourself. You can, I think this is why I put this in red, right? Like you can talk about this, but please try to shy away from such points or motivations in terms of why you want to become a counseling psychologist. Because at the end of the day, all of us who studied psychology, number one, we are interested in human behavior, right? Number two, we are passionate about helping people. right? So in as much as you want to talk about it, shy away from just pointing it out like that. Okay, the reason why I applied for counseling psychology is because I'm interested in human behavior. I've always wanted to study human behavior and understand why people do the things that they do, right? And then leave it like that. No. So what you're going to do is, like I said, you can talk about it, but just shy away from pointing it out like that. Talk about, yes, your interest in human behavior. Why? Try to give your answer substance. Don't just give a few phrases answers. Don't cut your answers short. I think one of the speakers mentioned something about one question, one question or your answer would be a follow-up for the other question, right? So answer in a way that they would want to ask you more, you see. So motivate for yourself. Yes, you're interested in human behavior, you're interested in the well-being of others, you're interested in mental health advocacy. This is common. Everyone that is applying for psychology is interested in mental health, or majority of us, right? But why? Why? That why? You can talk about those life experiences that have shaped you to want to apply for psychology or to want to become a psychologist. What is it that has motivated you to apply for counseling psychology, right? And then always remember to link your responses, your answers to the scope of work that counseling psychologists do, right? Like I said, you can talk about, what is it that you can offer, taking psychology out of the room, because it's what we in counseling psychology focus on most. Counseling psychology is very community-based. It's advocacy work at most, activism. You're always out there. So if you are someone that wants to be a psychologist but doesn't like doing community work, it might be difficult for you to be in the field of counseling psychology. Hence, I spoke about taking psychology out of the room, because it might be what is expected of you, or what you would be interested in doing or focusing on in terms of your work as a psychologist. And during your M1 and during your internship in counseling psychology, you would do a lot of community work. You would do a lot of community outreach, advocacy. You would go to schools, work with organizations, you would volunteer. So that might be expected of you. And it's up to you once you have qualified if you want to continue or if you don't want to continue, right? So now I'm going to look at the role of a counseling psychologist. I often get this question, people saying that I want to do clinical psychology because I want to diagnose. I want to do clinical psychology because I want to work with people with mental health disorders. The truth is, all psychologists, they work with mental disorders and they diagnose, except for research, right? It just depends in terms of the level of severity, what you work with in your specific category, right? So counseling psychology, first things first, crisis management, right? Crisis management, you do your risk assessment, therapy, you intervene using your therapeutic modalities, your theories, and then you diagnose. Yes, we diagnose, right? We use the DSM. And for severe mental disorders or illnesses, that is when we refer. You do the assessment and then you refer. So, for example, in a university setting, a student comes, they are highly suicidal, like their suicide risk is very high. Their depression and anxiety levels, they are very high because we use screening tools to measure that. They are very high, they're severe. You can see that the student is a risk based on what they're telling you, if they're a risk to themselves or they're a risk to others, or both, right? So what you do is that you refer the student for a 72-hour psychiatric evaluation, because that is out of our scope. And then the student can come back if after the 72-hour evaluation, the severity has the severity of the depression, anxiety, and the suicide risk has lessened, they can be sent back to us to now do your case management, which is you now working with that student in therapy, because their level now is on mild to moderate, right? So you're just going to work with them in terms of what had perpetuated those high levels of that severity of the symptoms, right? Or if they are admitted at a later stage, maybe after 2-3 months, they still want to continue with therapy, the level of severity, it has lessened. So they are still sent back to us, right, to continue with the case management, to continue with therapy, right? Because they are now at a level where they can actually work with a counseling psychologist, and that is where we come in, which is working with your mild to moderate cases, right? So it's not an issue of saying that as a counseling psychologist, you would be limited to working with a client that is suffering from depression, right? So I hope that this information really helps in terms of equipping you with the knowledge of the differences between what a psychologist, a clinical psychologist does, a counseling psychologist does, and so forth, right? And there is also psychological assessment, right? So your scholastic assessments, where we assess in terms of developmental issues, we do work with children, we do work with adults in terms of scholastic assessments, where you do your school readiness, you do your assessments for ASD, ADHD, your assessments in terms of maybe, let's say, a student is struggling with writing at school, a learner, not a student, is struggling at school. So we do work with such cases, and we can also be placed in a school setting, right? A counseling psychologist can work in a school setting where they will do both assessment and therapy. Being in a school setting does not limit you to doing assessment. You can also do therapy, because there are students that come with anxiety. They do come with difficulties in terms of their behavioral issues, where you have to intervene in terms of behavioral issues. You offer therapy based on that, right? And then research. Research is not only limited to research psychologists. We can do research, right? We can do research, write articles and publish, right? We can be in academia. Counseling psychologists can be lecturers, because what happens is, as students or as as professional master students, right? When you get into the master's program, you are trained by qualified counseling psychologists. You are trained by qualified clinical psychologists, and so forth, right? So we can work in academia, right? Policy development. You being a counseling psychologist does not limit you to being in a position to develop policies, be in a managerial post, because at the end of the day, a practice manager for a certain unit, for a certain, like, for example, in most counseling psychologists, they're placed in universities, right? So a practice manager is a counseling psychologist. So they should be involved in the policy development. It does not be them being a counseling psychologist and not having any qualifications in management. It does not limit them to being in that position. So I really hope this gives you an idea of the vast opportunities that you can get with a master's degree in counseling psychology, right? as long as you're qualified as a counseling psychologist, there is a whole lot that you can venture into in terms of the work that you want to do. Last year, we had a lady that was training us for assessment. She indicated something very interesting. She said that after qualifying as a counseling psychologist, she only practiced in therapy for a few years, and she's been doing assessment for the longest time now. So you can just imagine, because you would go out there and they tell you that only educational psychologists can do assessment, can do scholastic assessment. That is not true. She's in private practice and she only focuses on assessment. You can be a counseling psychologist and only focus on research. You can be a counseling psychologist and only focus on lecturing, in as much as you can do all at once, given the opportunity, which is great. And you can choose, like, it gives you the liberty to do whatever it is that you want to do, right? Career assessment and counseling. Now, these are the core competencies of a counseling psychologist. When you're a counseling psychology student, M1, M2, you have to do career assessment. This is like a category-based core competency, career assessments. It's very important to the work that we do. And career assessments, you can do them in school, you can do them in private practice, you can do them in universities. So if you're interested in career assessments, career development, student development, just know that counseling psychology would be the best place for you to go, right? And then training and supervision, like I said, that your supervisors in M1, M2, they are trained counseling psychologists, right? So you get to get experience in that as well. If you're interested in being a supervisor, it gives you that opportunity to, to venture into that. Community work, advocacy work, like I've already mentioned, if that is at the core of your heart, if you are interested, passionate in community work and advocacy work, working with communities, going out there, spreading mental health awareness, making mental health awareness information accessible to people out there, counseling psychology is for you. Those are the core competencies of a counseling psychologist. You doing a lot of community work. Community work, it's not only limited to that. There is a lot that you can do in terms of community work as a counseling psychologist. You can host workshops. There is absolutely a whole lot that one can do, right? So now I'm going to take questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have questions, please just note them down, and then for each, so just note them down so that we'll go through them at the end of the presentation, right? So now they may ask, I think it was Selina that mentioned in her presentation that there definitely or might be a question on why clinical, not counseling, or what do you understand, what do you think is the difference between counseling and clinical, right? So with counseling, like I've already mentioned, is that it's mostly working with developmental issues, in as much as clinical psychologists, they do work with that as well. It prevents and lessens psychological and mental health disorders from mild to moderate, while in clinical, they focus more on severe mental health issues. The work setting is also what sets it different. Counseling psychologists, we work most in universities, schools. Yes, there are counseling psychologists in hospitals as well, but quite a few. Private practice, we all work in private practice. So with clinical psychologists, they dominate in hospitals, in as much as nowadays I see there are universities that are hiring clinical psychologists, but most of them, they do their work in hospitals, right? So it's important for you to understand the scope of work, the differences there in terms of what is it that sets you apart from as a counseling psychologist and as a clinical psychologist. And like I said, that I will speak about my experience of being trained in the same class with clinical psychologists. We did almost everything together, from your assessments, theory. The only classes that we had which clinical psychologists didn't attend with us, it was career assessments and career counseling. It was working with HIV and AIDS clients, which they can also do. It was working in it was military psychology as well, which they can also do with military psychology. There were some assessments that they did that we couldn't do, which are more of on the neurological side. They attended personality disorders assessments separately, but we did touch a bit on personality assessments, right? So there isn't much difference if you look at it. It's just you understanding the work that you want to focus on as a counseling psychologist and the work that you want to focus on as a counseling psychologist, right? Taking into consideration factors like your work setting, the scope of work, and I think Katlego mentioned this, you looking at the money. Ask yourself, if you wanting to be a psychologist, is it really about the money or is it about the work that you want to do, right? So if it's about the money, yes, obviously clinical during internship and concept, they do get paid more. But if it's not about the money, but your passion and the work that you want to do assess accordingly in terms of the work that you want to do. So reflecting on my experiences as an intern, as a student and intern psychologist. As a student psychologist, I was placed at the Child and Family Center at UKZN. Mostly it was assessment, scholastic assessment, right? And some of my colleagues were placed in the university student counseling centers. So it's really interesting how it gives you this diversity in terms of where you can choose to work, what is it that you can choose to focus on, right? And then in my internship, I was placed at the university student counseling unit, and most of the work that I did was therapy, and most of the cases that you would come across are cases around anxiety, depression, academic stress, relationship issues, either romantic, family, like all forms of relationships, right? Roommate, lecturers, like all forms of relationships, right? And there were a fair share cases of severe cases where like you would get your bipolar cases, you would get your personality disorders cases, substance abuse. If you're interested in working with substance abuse, you would get a lot of exposure with that in the university setting. There were also crisis management, right? Crisis management, it's what you would do a lot. Debriefing. So debriefing, we would do if there were students that were involved in the traumatic experiences, you would do debriefing in that case. So trauma cases as well, quite a lot. Community work, like I mentioned, do a lot of talks. Almost every month you would go out there, speak about mental health, speak about bullying, substance abuse, sexual consent, GBV. There are quite a few cases of GBV as well. You work with both perpetrators and victims. there's just quite a lot that you work with in a university setting, right? Like it exposes you to quite a lot of these issues, adjustment as well. So you see, your mild to moderate, not severe cases that you would get in a hospital setting, like your severe mental health issues, your schizophrenia, your psychosis. So when we would get those which are not quite common, that's when we would refer, right? So yeah. So one of the questions that they may also ask, which is the role, what is it that you understand about the role of psychology in South Africa, right? So the role of psychology in South Africa at the moment, it's very important. It's of paramount importance looking at the mental health state of our country. So this is where now you go into social issues, right? You take psychology out of the therapeutic context. You're going to take it now into the communities. You're going to go into the communities and identify what is it that South Africans are struggling with mentally, right? So you can talk about your but I think that is in my next slide. So I'll talk about that in the next slide. So research it's important as well. It's important as psychologists to get involved in research because it informs our practice as practitioners, as clinicians, right? It informs the work that we do. Like I said, you need to do your research in terms of what is it that is happening currently in South Africa? What is the current mental state of our country, right? It will help you to identify various disorders as well. It helps you to explain human behavior. What is it that drives GBV perpetrators to do what they do? You know, it can help you in terms of the role of psychology now can help in terms of lessening or managing the high rate of mental health issues in our country and providing psychological support through mental health advocacy and therapy. So it's important. South Africans do have a right to therapy and to mental health knowledge, right? So I'm going to move on to this slide now, which is the mental health struggles of South Africans, either Blacks, underprivileged, or generally, right? Number one, it's stigma. Number one, it's stigma because we are a Black-dominated country. So they may want to know what is it that you understand about the mental health struggles of these people that you want to work with. Isn't it you're going to qualify, you're going to go out there and work with these people? What is it that you want to help them with, right? You say that you want to study psychology because you're passionate about helping people. What are you going to help them with, right? So the stigma. We can talk about the stigma, how it's affecting individuals in terms of seeking help, more especially men, because we understand that the masculinities around men, they struggle to seek help because of how society is going to perceive them. Even other Black individuals as well, they are scared of how they will be stigmatized when people know that they're going for therapy because of this stigma around mental health issues. The understanding that mental health is still for white people, not for Black people, right? Like I said, that we are a Black-dominated country and Black people still think that they don't need therapy. They still think that mental health does not concern them at all. In fact, whereas it's affecting them, right? Black people still understand mental health as witchcraft or therapy. Mental health issues as a form of witchcraft, right? They still understand that for them to get help, they just need to go the traditional route instead of the Western route, right? So this lack of knowledge around mental health It's what you can talk about in terms of what you want to work on in terms of working with the communities, helping people understand, mental health literacy. I think it's very key, right? Some of the mental health struggles in South Africa are inadequate mental health care, in as much as we could be having people advocating for mental health, telling people to go for therapy. There is no access, right? Accessibility is an issue. People in the marginalized communities, they struggle to access mental health, right? And then if you want to focus on the issues, you could talk about trauma, which I think is the most prevalent due to crime and GBV rate in our country, right? So you talk about that and talk about how you as a psychologist, or as you being a psychologist, you would understand such issues and work around them, right? So I think that's all about the counseling psychology. I would now, or maybe I should take questions for the category specific. I think I should take questions for that now, maybe, before we move on into the research activity.
Thank you, Martha. If anyone who's joining us this morning has any questions based on what Martha has shared, you can type them in the comment section. If you're shy to raise your hand, and I'll read them out for you. Alternatively, you can raise up your hand and just interact with her so that you can get the best possible response. Okay, in the interest of time, because I don't see any questions yet, we can just move on. But if they do arise much later or during your presentation, we can then take them at the end.
Yes, I think I'll just move on to the research activity now. I lost my screen. Just gonna try to share. Okay. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you. All right. So the research interview or activity, right? So it can be an interview or it can be an activity, right? Now, the purpose of this interview is that they want to assess your research. They want to assess your research skills, your knowledge, and limitations when it comes to research, right? What is it that you understand by research so far? Because they call in for selection students who are in honors, some who have completed, right? So they want to see that, okay, so far in your honors year, or since you have completed your honors, where are you in terms of research, right? Because research is one of the components of that you need to complete during your master's, right? So there's no way you can run from research. You're gonna have to do it. So they want to see if you would be able to carry out a study. So when you are applying, they ask you to send a research concept paper or a mini or brief research proposal, right? Which in most cases it's 5 pages, including references, if I recall correctly. So they are going to ask you questions based on that piece of paper that you would be sending in, right? And then for the research activity, in most cases, what they would do is that you would read an article, and then from that article, they may ask you to write an abstract of that article. So like I said, they're assessing if you your research skills and how you can best apply them, right? So in the interview, they're going to ask you questions based on your title. So why did you choose that specific topic? Why are you interested in that topic? What is it about this topic that interests you, that you want to carry out a whole study based on it, right? And then they're going to check if your objectives and questions align with that topic and if they're feasible for you to carry out your study, right? And then they're going to look at the significance of your study. Is this relevant? What you're researching, is it relevant, right? How is it going to contribute to the field of psychology or social science? How is your research going to contribute to this field? Because when you're formulating your topic, it has to be in the social science field, not necessarily psychology. You don't have to go deep into researching about disorders, mental illness, but it can be anything social science, right? So you can research about substances, you can research about GBV, and so forth, right? And now, the most important thing in the research interview, what they want to see is your methodology. Like I said, they want to check where you are in terms of your research skills and knowledge thus far, right? So your methodology should clearly indicate how you're going to carry out this research. Can you actually carry out this research? They're going to look at your design, your sampling, your data collection, data analysis, and they're going to look at ethics. Are you not going to do harm with your research, right? Hence, it might be quite difficult to carry out a research study with vulnerable participants. You really have to motivate why you're going to do that. There really have to be measures put in place in terms of you not violating your participants and putting them at risk, re-victimization. Yeah, so you need to know your methodology in depth, right? Because you're going to submit this paper and you're going to go for the interview without this paper, right? So when you get into the interview, you need to know what is it that you have written there and why, right? I always reflect on this question when I speak to other fellow applicants, that one question that really took me off was why quantitative. What is the difference between qualitative and quantitative? Because when I sent in my research concept paper, my methodology was on my design and approach. It was qualitative, right? And then the question came, okay, why qualitative? I was able to speak on that. Okay, so why not quantitative? I was able to speak on that. What is quantitative? And then I started, I was puzzled by that question, in as much as I tried my best, but I was puzzled. And it's one thing that they always want to ask, to see if you understand the differences. They want to see if you're not going to limit yourself with your design, right? So you need to know qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods, everything you need to know. And you need to know your sampling method as well. Why did you choose purposive sampling? Why did you not choose snowballing, right? Your data collection as well. Why interviews? Why are you just sticking to interviews? Why didn't you do questionnaires, surveys, right? So they need to, they're just going to ask you questions just to see if you understand research holistically, right? Data analysis as well. They might ask you to, you might think that, okay, I'm just going to use thematic analysis. I know what thematic analysis is. I know that there are 6 steps. They might ask you to define the 6 steps in thematic analysis, right? And then I think the most important thing, like I said before, your ethics, right? They want to know how you're going to protect your participants. Is your research going to be of value in the field, right? So you're going to talk, so you need to know your ethics in research, your confidentiality, informed consent, judgment, your beneficence, non-maleficence. So you need to be equipped with such knowledge before going into the interview, right? And at the end of the day, the interviews may seem as if they are difficult. They just want to put you in a tough position. But the thing is, during masters, during internship, you as a psychologist, in almost every case, you would be expected to think on your feet. So it's important to work on your analytical skills, right? So that you would come across as an individual that is able to think on their feet, and that is able to, even when they don't know the right answer, but they're able to think of something, you see. All right, that is all for the research interview. And then group interview or activity. So the purpose of this one is that they want to assess your teamwork skills. They want to see if you're able to work in a team, right? They want to see if you're a team player. What is your role in a team? What is your role in group work? In university, we know there is group work, but in masters, it's worse, right? It's worse. You will be expected to be in groups almost every time. You will be expected to submit group assignments, group projects. You would be expected to run group therapy with your fellow candidates as well. So it's a thing of making you aware that you don't just function alone. You need to learn to function with other people. You need to learn to work with other people, because that is very important. They encourage that in psychology, working with other people, consulting, asking for questions where you're not sure, not just coming to a conclusion alone, right? So they want to see if the person that they'll be selecting will be able to fit into the entire group. Hence, everyone goes through that process of group interview, group activity, because they want to see, okay, if we're going to have the 6 students in counseling psychology class next year, will they be able to work well together? Because they would be expected to engage in several group work, right? So before I go into the other points, I want you to take a good look at this picture and tell me what you think.
Hi, Mata. How are you? So, yes, I'm good, thank you. So, in my own opinion, I see this one lady who's facing us in this direction of the camera being isolated. So, basically, in summary, she's not part of the group in this regard. Hence, which is what is not needed when pursuing a counseling psychology qualification during the group interview activity.
Thank you. Yes, good. Thank you. Anyone else with a different opinion?
I also can't help but notice that she's the only Black student there. So I'm not sure if she's going through her own thoughts and feelings about perhaps being different in terms of I beg your pardon. So I don't know if perhaps there's issues there regarding her skin color. Perhaps she's going through internal feelings.
Okay. Interesting. Anyone else?
Hi. So looking at the picture, I think maybe it could be that everyone has been designated different roles, because I don't know if you guys can see, like, at the back there's a guy, he's doing something there. He's not part of the ones that are standing by the projector. So I think maybe it could be that everyone is just assigned a different role. I don't know. That's how I see it.
Okay. Interesting. Anyone else?
Hi.
No.
Hi. Just to go off what I think it was Jay. Yes, I also kind of saw that maybe there is maybe that some collaboration that had happened before and everyone was designated to do different things, because you'll see on the board on the left hand side there's different colors organized, so maybe it's people trying to organize their thoughts in different ways before coming in and collaborating again in a way that they can help and understand each other better. So but then also it could, I mean, her isolating, maybe she needs that space to also just come up and think on her thoughts a bit better before she goes back into the group. So that's something else that came to mind.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm glad that you all have different views. I see a hand from Livuani.
Yeah, I also wanted to put in my thoughts. So I see a group of people together. The majority of the people are not inviting the lady who is isolated. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Anyone else with a different view?
Mata, sorry, I would like to add something. I think another option could be the lady could be one of the panelists. I'm just thinking, assessing them on their teamwork skills and so on. So yeah, thank you.
That's a very interesting one. Okay. Anyone else?
Hi everyone. I think I have to agree with Makosazana, because the lady seems to be so confident and unfazed with the fact that they are working alone. So she must be maybe a figure of authority. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else with a different view?
Hi,
everyone. Oh, sorry.
so my view is that I feel like the lady is isolating herself. She's not putting herself into the group. Yes, that's my view.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just feel like at this moment, that moment when you disagree with everyone, but you don't like really share your thoughts. And you're like, let them do whatever. And then, yeah, it doesn't matter. My view doesn't matter, but I don't agree anyway, in that sense.
Hello, I cannot raise my hand. Can I please take it?
Yes, you can go.
Okay. Judging by the body language of the lady, it seems to me that the lady is part of the group, yet at this point, she might be there might be other people on the other side that we're not seeing from the picture. So she might be probably saying, okay, engaging those people regarding the activities that are happening that we're seeing on the image. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, this is interesting. I think I'm gonna have to end it there. And I'm glad that you all have different views in terms of this picture. You've analyzed it differently, and I just want to say that first things first. Now, everyone who has said, who has commented on the picture and what they think is happening in the picture, you have a right to this value that you hold, right? You have a right to, to stick with this thought and not let what the other person has said make you doubt your viewpoint and what you think is happening in the picture. And that is very important in a group activity. Just because X is saying the lady is a figure of authority doesn't mean that B should now say, oh yeah, you're actually right. No, if they think that the lady is isolating, they should tell us why they think the lady is motivating. And X should also tell us why he or she thinks the lady is a figure of authority, right? So it's one of the things that they are looking for, they want to see in a group interview. But the point that I wanted you guys to see, this is my viewpoint now. The point that I wanted you guys to see or to point out is that this lady and two other individuals, I think there's someone there on both the left and the right, and there's the lady, and there's that five on the board there. They are busy, sharing their ideas, and the other one, the one in the middle, she seems to be talking with the other one, right? I'm not sure if it's on the right or on the left, right? She is not concentrating on what those on the board are doing as well. This lady is in her own world. The gentleman, I think it's a gentleman, on the other hand, he's doing his own thing as well on the table. So this is a group activity, right? This is a group activity. So what should be done in a group activity? And what is it that the panel wants to see during a group activity? They would give you a topic to discuss, share your viewpoints, your perspectives, what you think, agree, disagree. What is it that they want to see? It's just that I think I should have added another picture of what I want you to gauge in terms of what a group interview looks like. But this picture right here is definitely not what should happen during a group interview. It's definitely not what you as an individual should do during a group interview, especially the lady here. Some of you mentioned race. So you see such things. Let's say, yes, you're invited for selections, right? And you're the only different person. Let's say maybe it's 4 blacks and you're the only white person, or it's 4 whites and you're the only black person, Indian, colored, whatever. So are you going to isolate yourself because of race? Are you going to isolate yourself because you feel like you don't have anything to share? Are you going to isolate yourself because you feel like they're overpowering you? Because there are those dynamics as well in the group interview where everyone is fighting to speak, right? Everyone wants to chip in and share their piece. And then you just like, let me hold back and let them speak. Let them do their thing, right? So what is going to happen? Because it's a group activity. And they want to see that, okay, those people, they're going to be accepted into masters next year. We're going to give them a group assignment. So if we give them a group assignment, only these 4 are going to discuss, and then X is going to lay back and he or she is not going to contribute, right? So you see how that is going to disadvantage you as an individual in the group interview, right? So I just wanted to share that, and I think by doing this mini exercise, you now have an idea of what is it that you should how you should present yourself in a group interview, right? So, like I said, they're going to give you a topic. So most topics they're going to focus on social issues. It may not be a very psychological topic, or that requires you to use a psychological theory, even if it is, but in most cases, you're going to discuss social issues, you may discuss GPD, current affairs, crime, what you think about this that increase and how it's going to affect individuals psychologically, such questions, right? And then you discuss them as a group, not like that picture, right? As a group. You ensure that you as an individual, you say something, your contribution matters. Yes, your values may be different, like you see how I was answering questions, right? It's just unfortunate that maybe we could have broke out into rooms and, open our cameras but it's fine. I asked a question and I had a group of people sharing different ideas. I like that. So it's okay to share your different ideas. In as much as you are explaining them the way that you understand them, your ideas, staying true to your values, not shifting from your perspective or values because of what the other person is saying. And you think, oh, maybe they're right? You're not just going with the flow, but you're making a contribution based on what you think is the correct thing for that specific topic that you would be addressing, right? And respecting one another and respecting their views. Maybe let's say you disagree with what the other person is saying. They say that the lady seems to be isolated, right? And you're saying, no, I think she's not isolated, or I think she's isolating herself because of race, right? How you're going to make your point in terms of, it's an argument now, right? You're going to argue in a very respectful manner, not making the other person feel disrespected, make them feel like they're not intellectual enough, making them feel like they were not cut for this career or for this space. So ensure that how you address one another is in a respectful manner. There is no wrong or right answer, honestly. They just want to assess your critical thinking skills. Are you able to think on the spot? And a holistic approach to how you solve problems or how you engage in conversations, right? So don't look at that issue that you're discussing in a one-dimensional, just look at it broadly. How can this issue that you're discussing maybe, be assessed? How can you intervene in that similar case, right? And they just want to see if you are a team player and you're not a spectator, or you zone out into your own, into your own world. Because I honestly feel like in that picture, so everyone is there discussing something, trying to brainstorm, and there's just one person who's posing for the camera. I mean, yes, it's okay, but look at the time and the context. Is it the appropriate time to pose at the camera right now? Is it the appropriate time to zone out, or this is the time where you could be contributing? So they want to see that, okay, this person is going to come into masters next year. We're going to give them group work. They're going to contribute. They're going to add value to the group. They're not just going to sit back and relax and let others do the work, right? They're going to share ideas, and in that way, they're going to get better results, right? I think, yeah, this was all in terms of the group activity. I didn't ask questions for the research one. So maybe if we have questions for the research activity and this one, maybe we can go ahead and ask. Any questions?
Thank you, Martha. I do see a comment in our comment section from Odette. It is unclear to me. She made a comment saying everyone engaging on one thing. I think that's what she is trying to say. So if you're comfortable, may you please just open up your mic so that Martha can give you clarity.
Oh no, sorry, I was responding to the picture that everyone must be engaging on one activity, like she mentioned.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So if there aren't any questions for now on the research, and I'm gonna move on to the case study and approaches, right? So let's say you're invited for selections and they indicate that there would be a case study. So this case study is obviously going to be category based, right? So looking at a common case study that they may give you when you're going for a counseling psychology selections. So they might look into the student population because that is mostly where you might be placed, right, for your practicals during your M1, right? So they may give you a case. So I'm going to read out the scenario for you. So it says, a lecturer brings a student in for therapy. You see the student and they present with low mood and energy, lack of concentration, academic stress. They want to drop out, a recent breakup, overwhelmed, thoughts around dropping out, repetition, unhealthy eating habits, lack of adequate sleep, and the student mentioned that they wish they could stop living to be freed from all the pain. And then a week later, the lecturer bumps into you on campus, you as the student psychologist, and ask for feedback regarding the student's case. What are you going to say to him or her, or how would you intervene in this case? Just looking at the whole scenario, how would you intervene in this case? Anyone who wishes to volunteer?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So I mean, wouldn't it be a breach of confidentiality if you were to give feedback of any sorts to the lecturer? Because if they did refer the student to you, what would have been said within, I mean, a session, if they whether they came to you or not, that should stay between you and that student.
Okay. So you're saying it would be a breach of confidentiality should you disclose to the lecturer what has been happening with the client?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say, yes, they brought the student in because they noted that the student hasn't been performing very well, and they know that the student has good grades, but recently they haven't been performing very well. And they bring in the student, or indicating that, okay, the student has indicated that they are going through some stuff. They don't indicate what they're going through, right? So they're just saying, I'm going through a lot. There's a lot that is going on emotionally. I'm not okay. And then the lecturer brings them in. They just refer or they just help them come to the unit, right? So your role, like you're saying, is that it would be a breach of confidentiality, right?
Yes. I also just wanted to get clarity. Is this a lecture? Is this because you said lecturer, so I'm guessing this is at a university, just to clarify.
Yes. Yes.
Because I know if it was I don't know if it is a student or something, then maybe parents might give permission for the teacher, I don't know, or a teacher, a specific teacher maybe to give updates or something, but then you see that would be yeah, I guess for me the that last line is where I'm focusing a lot more on confidentiality and the feedback part.
Yes, thank you. Yes, in a university setting, because I wanted this to be a case that is most common in, not a case, I mean, a setting where most counseling psychologists would work in, right? So yes, thank you for that. And yes, you are correct, because the student did not disclose to the lecturer what is going on, right? They disclose to you as a professional, right? So they do not have the right to ask for feedback and also look at the setting. They bump into you on campus, right? So you can't just be giving feedback on the streets. So it's more of an ethical dilemma, right? So it's me now saying that you need to look into ethics in therapy as well. Know ethics in therapy before you go for selections, because you might get a case like this where they ask you, it might come in an internship interview or a case study where they ask, okay, let's say you're placed in a university for your internship. This is the case that you might come across. How would you intervene, right? But like I said, you can look at this case holistically and indicate how you would intervene, right? So maybe anyone else who wants to give it a try in terms of how they would intervene.
I think from my side, I wouldn't necessarily just jump in and be like, okay, we're going to do psychodynamic therapy with this person, give me your life history. And I think as they come in, especially if you see that they really have a low mood and low energy, maybe just being with them in that moment and maybe just discussing what they're feeling at that moment. I think sometimes we want to have background information, we want to have all this, but it seems like they might just need you to be there, have empathy, and understand what they're going through at the moment before you even think of what intervention are we going to use, what type of therapy, just having empathy and keeping the space for them.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Just being present in the moment and just focusing on their emotions is very important at this stage, right? Because therapy is emotion focused, right? So it's important to, before jumping into your treatment plan, to indicate that you're going to firstly be emotionally present for the client and get the necessary history that you need to get. So this is your first session, right? So this is where you need to get as much information as you can about the client. So yes, thank you. Anyone else? How would you intervene? Looking at the case holistically.
I think, and like they've said all this, and then obviously, I think if they mention that they want to be free from living, that's like a hint to probably thinking about suicide. So I would really want to probe more about that and really assess if it's like an immediate thought, they've thought about it, what are they thinking? And based on like suicide, yeah, that like immediately at that moment assess the risk in a way.
Yes, very good. Yes, you would assess the risk of suicide risk to themselves. They mentioned a breakup. You need to assess homicidality as well. Could they be a risk to the partner? You see, yes. Just to be sure in terms of understanding what is going on with your client.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Anyone else?
I go.
Yes, you may.
So I think I'd also explore why they want to drop out of school. Is it because of financial issues? Is it because of the breakup? Is it because they're feeling suicidal? So also just obviously you would contain and be there for them, but at a later stage you want to find out why they want to drop out and understand or maybe for them to understand if dropping out is the best decision for them at that period of time, or maybe do they need a break from school for a while instead of dropping out completely. So just exploring those options as well.
Yes, good, thank you. Yes, you would want to probe more into understanding why they want to drop out. Yes, they did mention academic stress, right? But you would want to understand what is the root cause of the academic stress, right? And then they'll tell you that there are financial issues involved because one client can come to you in therapy with one issue, but as you probe, you might find that this and that they are connecting to the other. Like there's just a whole lot of connections that you could make. So yeah, that would be important as well. And just as you assess your risk of suicide, since they mentioned that they're having this ideation, you could also assess support as well. Who is their support? Who forms part of their support system? Do they have friends around? Do they have a roommate? Who do they stay with at rest? If they stay at rest, if they stay at home, who do they stay with? If they stay in private accommodation, are they safe staying alone? Assess their the environment where they stay. Could they be, are they exposed to harmful objects or that harmful objects that they can use to actually use to attempt? So yeah, thank you so much for the contributions. Those are some of the things that you can look for, and I wanted you to be mindful of when going for
Martha,
selections. Yes.
I'm so sorry to interject you there. I just want to ask, when speaking to a client in that scenario and having to understand their history, is it not overwhelming to ask them about each and every aspect?
No, it is not overwhelming because you might not ask them about their support system and you find that the issue is actually that support system. I'm just making an example. They don't have anyone to support them, hence they are distressed. So you need to get all the information, that not the full history of the client, like asking them about their birth, their school, medical history. Yes, you can ask if they've been admitted to a psychiatric hospital before. If they've attempted before, is very important as well. You need to know if they're saying that this at this present moment they are thinking about, or they have these thoughts, have they attempted before? Because this helps you in terms of assessing the risk as well, that, okay, is this person a high risk or they're low risk? Could they actually harm themselves, or is just a thought because of what they're going through, right? I hope you're answered.
I'm answered, thank you.
All right. Okay. So in some of so in this case, you would assess for depression and anxiety given what they have described, given the symptoms that they have described there. And you may not necessarily make your diagnosis depending on how you're going to intervene, right? Or depending on the level. So if it's high, obviously you're going to have to refer. And if it's low, then you can take them back, see how you now start therapy with them in the next session, just see how you go about and see if you go into, so don't, what I'm trying to say is don't rush into making a diagnosis, right? And into making a diagnosis and so a treatment plan, it assesses you, it involves you assessing for safety, you screening, and the therapeutic modality one, it will come after when you have contained the client, you have all the information that you need to, come up with a treatment plan, right? And yeah, I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. Remember, always be authentic when you go for the selections. Be as authentic as possible. Like, it will help you. It wouldn't help if you pretend to be someone or something that you're not just because you want to be selected, because that will show, right? It will definitely show. The use of AI, I just want to touch a bit on this because we are in this AI world right now. Everyone is using AI. It's easier to use AI to get things done quicker, but when you use AI, for example, for your autobiographies and motivational letters, it wouldn't really help if you're going to use AI, because that is not a true reflection of who you are. Use AI wisely. You can use AI to edit, your grammar for language edits, but don't use AI to now create your narrative, to create a narrative for you. So yes, I think that brings me to the end. Any questions, comments? Yeah, feel free to ask. I see a hand from Inalemang. You can go ahead and mute.
Good afternoon. I just want to say thank you so much to all presenters. I am not a candidate to apply for counseling psychology. I am a registered counselor by profession. I'm currently doing my PhD in psychology, but I must say I have benefited so much as a student. I love the energy I saw and listened to in the room. And I hope that students will take the feedback that they have been given so seriously. I'm not young. I'm not as young as you guys. I can see that you are youngsters. I'm over 50 years of age. But there's so much you said that is relevant to my research, because my study is I'm using autoethnography in my research. But there's just so much beautiful things that I wanted to say to you. Thank you so much for the impact you are making to African children in particular. As an African woman pursuing my PhD in psychology, I am so impressed with what you have put together. Thank you so much.
It's only a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Megan and Godi. We appreciate your comment so much. Yes, we definitely agree. Thank you so much. Thank you, Martha, as well, for your incredible presentation and for also for staying on past the time allocation. Your insights have been both thought-provoking and very practical to us as well. It's clear that your journey and your expertise resonate with many of us here today. As we come to the end of this enriching webinar, I want to thank each of you for your engagement and your enthusiasm. Today's session has reinforced a critical truth. The journey to becoming a psychologist is as much about perseverance and curiosity as it is about knowledge and strategy. I hope you leave here with renewed hope and optimism, being armed with tools and insights that will guide you forward. Remember, the PsySSA Student Division is here to connect you with resources, mentorship, and a supportive community to help you thrive academically and professionally. I want to extend our heartfelt thanks and gratitude to our incredible speakers, Selina, Katlego, and Martha, for sharing their journeys as well as their expertise with us here today. Your words have undoubtedly inspired and empowered us all. A special thank you to the PsySSA head office for their invaluable support and their commitment to empowering psychology students and fostering growth within the profession as well. I do want to say that we are actively working on additional webinars to explore various categories within the discipline as well, so that we can provide students with diverse learning opportunities. And I want to encourage you this morning to follow us on our social media platforms and actively engage with us. Write to us, tell us what you would like to see next. Your suggestions for future webinars and information sessions are always welcome. And we will do our best to support your needs. We also invite you to consider becoming a member of the PsySSA Student Division. Membership offers a student with unique opportunities to volunteer and actively contribute to the division. Applications are currently open, so don't miss the chance to join. Additionally, we have curated valuable resources available on our YouTube channel, which are all free for students. Be sure to explore them for future learning and growth. My name is Nonhle, and I'm the Vice Chairperson of the PsySSA Student Division, and it has been my absolute honor to facilitate this webinar with you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nonhle. Just before we go, I see there are comments, there are questions in the comment section, and there are people who have still raised their hand. So could we please just use this time before?
All right, all right.
Yes, please.
I see.
Sorry, this is Selina. I was just wondering if you can answer when they can expect the recording and where it will be. Those questions have come up a lot.
Thank you, Selina. We will issue out communication on our Instagram channel regarding the recording as well as other resources that have been shared. I think it is quite important to take it with the safety of the disclaimer as well. So hence I...
Hi, Nonhle, your mic is muted.
Sorry, my apologies. I am saying that we will update the students on our social media platforms regarding the upcoming webinars for the other categories, as well as recordings and other available resources. But there are available recordings and YouTube videos that are available free of charge to students, both on our website, our social media pages, particularly Instagram, as well as YouTube.
Can I go ahead and answer the questions, Nonhle?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I see there's Linda who has a hand for now, and then after Linda, if there isn't anyone with a hand, I'll go into the chat box.
Oh, good afternoon. Thanks, Martha. My question is related to the research component of a master's. I've been involved in different research studies, and I know we've collected a lot of data there. Now, my question is around coming up with your research or research concept for your masters, are we allowed to use data that was collected a couple of years ago for this, for the master, for the research component, or we would be required to come up with the new research where you'll have to collect new data and use it for your masters? You'd also see I've posted this question on the chat, but yeah, thanks.
Sure. Okay. This is the first. I don't know if there's anyone who has come across such a question, but I don't. According to my knowledge, I don't think that would be possible because there are individuals who have completed their masters in research by dissertation, but as soon as they get accepted into the professional masters one, they start their research. They start afresh with their research, but maybe this is something, if you are selected, you can discuss with your supervisor and see how you go about that maybe. Okay, if there's anyone who has different information, maybe they can share.
Hi, Martha. If I can please go, I'm going to suggest that I know that I do have colleagues that are on here. Some of the questions that remained unanswered, we can create a document that we can circulate to students. I think I can attempt to do that at least.
Okay.
So that everyone does feel quite answered. It has, yeah, so that everyone feels answered and ready to approach their selection process. The aim of the webinar was to fully capacitate, students and leave no stone unturned. So I think that's what we can do, to create a Word document or some post that we can offer to students on some of the questions that have been raised, and we can try and answer them there.
No, okay, no problem. That would work for me. Thank you so much.
Yes, so thank you so much. Again, thank you so much to everyone that has joined us. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with you, and see you again for the other category webinars that we're going to be hosting. Please keep an eye on our Instagram channel as well. We will be posting more information. And if you have any other suggestions on what you feel that we need to do to capacitate students, we're more than welcome to accept those suggestions. And if you'd like to become a member of the student division, that's still an opportunity that's open, as well as our volunteer opportunities as well. They are quite open. I think that's it from my side. Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.